Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's DAF, Bava Metzia and Hey. We are actually partway down the Amud, down at the Mishnah, which begins with Ha'ina Arba'a Kesef, as we learned. Ha'ina, the halacha of Ha'ina, which refers to either a buyer overpaying or a seller being underpaid. So all these, forms of, let's call it fraud, right, apply to when the discrepancy between actual value and paid value and in a paid amount is either a sixth or more, right? Ha'ina arba'a kesef, 4 kesef. Rashi says 4 per sela. So basically, you have a sela which has 4 dinar. Each dinar has 6 kesef. So 4 kesef out of a sela is really a sixth, right? Because it's 6 times 4 is 24. 4 out of 24 is a sixth. So if he was cheated by that amount, it constitutes oina'ah. Okay, so on account of this number, the Mishnah will now proceed with a full list of things which relate to specific value amounts, specific amounts of money, and the halachas associated with them. V'atana shtei kesef. What's the minimum amount of tana, of claim, of monetary claim, which will trigger a shvuah? We know that if a person is a moed b'miktsas, he partially admits to a claim waged against him, that triggers a chiv of a shvuah. He has to swear to establish his claim, his partial denial. And the halacha is, unless the fellow presenting the claim is presenting at least a claim of at least 2 kesef, right? That's the minimum. Only then will that trigger a shvuah in the bezdin. And this is discussed in the Masechah Shvuah. It's exactly why, when, and where. Another halacha pertaining to a minimum amount of money is haidah, right? So this fellow waged a claim, presented a 2 kesef claim against me. I owe him this much, and I responded with a partial admission, but it has to amount to at least a pruta, which was the smallest coin, the smallest copper coin. Less than that will not trigger a shvuah process. Okay, on the topic of pruta, says the Mishnah, actually, it's not the only halacha that pertains to a pruta. We have 5 separate halachas that relate to a pruta. Chamish pruta isein, haidah shavi pruta, right? Like we said, you have to admit at least to a pruta of that claim. Va'isha miskadeshes, b'shavi pruta, we'll interest back in Mesachas Kiddushin. The minimum amount of money required for a Kiddushin, to marry an Isha, is a pruta. Va'nena b'shavi pruta min hagdash mal, a person misuses hagdish property for personal use, right? He redirects hagdish for personal use, that's me'ilah. Triggers a whole process of me'ilah with karbonis. You need at least a pruta that you have taken from hagdish. Va'moitze shavar pruta chayv lahachris, right? We learned this back in Bava Metzia. What's the smallest amount that requires a shavas aveda? You found something which is worth at least a pruta. And finally, if a person steals a pruta off his friend and he swears to his innocence, and then he admits to his guilt, since it involved a false oath, you have to take that money now and follow him all the way to Madai, far away. You can't just send it, you have to deliver it to him personally. So we have a total of 5 halachas that relate to a pruta: haidah, kiddushin, me'ilah, Hashavas Aveda, and the halacha of Hashavas Gezela. Tanina Chadazimna. The Mishnah began with Ha'ina. It's 4 kesef of a sela, which is a sixth. Tanina Chadazimna, we already had this Mishnah the other day. Ha'ina arba'a kesef, me'esrim, v'arba'a kesef l'sela. It's 4 kesef, when 24 go for a sela, which basically equals shtus l'mekach, a sixth of the total purchase price. So what's the point of this repetition? Well, says the Gemara on account of the next halacha. Hatana shtei kesef, v'haidah shav pruta tzrich alei. It was mainly for the next, couple of items on the list. that the claim which triggers a shvua needs to be at least 2 kesef worth. A hodah has to be a pruta. And that's the main point, and sort of brought a complete list, starting with all things that are related to specific monetary amounts. Asks the Gemara, well, those halachas are also already stated elsewhere in great clarity. Hanami Tanina, we have a Mishnah in Shvuos, Shvuos Hadayanim Hatana Shtei Kesef. Vaydash have a pruta. In order for the Dayanim to trigger a Shvuah, you need the claim of at least 2 kesef, admission of a pruta. So it's all already been presented and detailed elsewhere. Why the repetition? Sefer Tzrichalei. The main thing is for the next part of the Mishnah. We go on, and we end off with the shavar pruta, and then that triggers the next list, like Tani Chamish Pruta saying, right? Once we got involved in a Haidah shavar pruta, that tripped the next list, which is Chamish Pruta saying. So that's the focal point of the Mishnah, and everything else is sort of associated with it. Okay, so what are these 5 pruta-related halachas? Chamish Pruta saying. Right, we have Haidah, Kedushin, Me'ilah, Hashavas Aveda, and Hashavas Gazela. Listening Nami Hainah, Pruta. What about Hainah? Cheating, frauding. Right? Defrauding a buyer, overcharging. That too should have a minimum of a Pruta. Right? Less than a Pruta, it's insignificant, it's negligible, you're Meichel. So why do we have that on the list? Hainah only applies when he was cheated at least a Pruta. Amar of Kahanu Semeres. This teaches us that ain the prutas, unless he cheated him at least a silver coin's worth. It's not significant. Just a copper penny. It's not significant enough to generate a chiddush. But Levi Amar, no, yesha no the prutas. Levi disagrees. Even if he overcharged him by a pruta, and it turns out the pruta was a sixth of the value, so that constitutes a yeah, sure. It falls under the Aina umbrella. V'chein Tani Levi Masnisa. In fact, Levi, when he compiled his brises, in his brisa he added the Aina Shavar Pruta, in contrast to the Mishnah. Chamish Pruta saying he has a different type of list. 5 halachas relating to a pruta. He starts off with Aina Pruta, and V'Haidah Pruta, V'Kedusha Isha Pruta, V'Gezer Pruta. Here comes an interesting case. V'Yeshivas Hadayan Pruta. It's not mentioned in the Mishnah. Yeshivas Hadayanim. What amount? What's the minimum claim amount which can require the judges to sit down and initiate a court proceeding? Yeshivas Hadayanim require at least a claim of pruta. Right? So Reuben has at least a pruta claim against Shimon. Right? The Dayan will sit down and deal with it. So interestingly, Levi had a similar list, same number, 5 pruta related halachas, but he added 2 cases not mentioned in the Mishnah. Oina'ah, as we explained, and Yeshivas Hadayanim. He omitted Hashavas Aveda, and what else? Me'ilah. Okay, and we're going to deal with that now. V'tana didan my time l'ktani yeshivas hadayan. Firstly, why didn't our Mishnah mention the minimum amount to trigger the court session? Well, Tana Gezel, it already mentioned that for Hashavas Gazela you need a pruta, which indicates to us that a pruta is considered mamain, it has monetary value, it has chashivas, and of course that will be legitimate enough claim to trigger a court session. I mean, pretty much one thing follows the next. So one should mention Gezel. Yeshivas Hadayanim follows from there. Umi Loktani Gezel Loktani Aveda. So we don't need the redundancy. So we don't have to repeat this and that. It's sort of included. Well, what do you mean? Umi Loktani Gezel Loktani Aveda. Doesn't the Mishnah mention Hashavas Gazela is a pruta, Hashavas Aveda is a pruta, which is pretty much 2 variations of the same halacha. So we see the Mishnah is going into different, variation. Hanachas Trichale, these have specific lessons embedded. Because Gezel teaches us, if a person steals a pruta, he makes a shvur to deny, he has to go personally deliver it to him all the way to Madai. That's an interesting detail, unique to Hashavas Gazela. And Aveda, What's unique to Aveda? Hamoid say Aveda Shav Pruta Chayv Lahachriz. If he finds an Aveda worth a Pruta, he has to go seek the owner. Va'afagav the Zal. The Chiddush here is even though it dropped in value since he found it. It's currently worth less than a Pruta, but since when he picked it up it was a Pruta, he's Chayv. So each one of these scenarios carries with it an interesting lesson which is unique to that case. And therefore the Mishnah bothers to sort of mention it separately. Why didn't, in fact, Levi mention Hashavas Aveda requiring a Pruta? Pruta. Answer is Tanale Gezel. Because he already mentions Gezel, Hashavas Gezela, which denotes that a Pruta has value, and what naturally follows is that a Hashavas Aveda is also a Pruta related halacha. What do you mean? When we look Tani Gezel, and obviously he perhaps doesn't hold of the halacha of Zol, if it lowers, drops in value, he doesn't hold of the halacha, so he didn't see a need to mention it separately. What do you mean? Umilak Tani Gezel, Tani Shivas Hadayanim. On Levi's list we have Gezel, Hashavas Gezel is a Pruta, and he also mentions that a Pruta claim will trigger a court session. So it also seems to be a redundancy, because it's obvious that if a Pruta is considered value, so yeah, Dayanim will deal with it. Well, says the Gemara, that's not so simple. Yeshivas Hadayanim and Strichale, he needed to go into that. La Fukim Rav Katina, as opposed to Rav Katina, the Rav Katina, Bezdin niskaken afil lepochis mishav pruta. You know that Bezdin will deal even with a claim less than a pruta, and that's why Levi sought to mention it to rule out this point. V'Levi my timer lektani hegdish. Now, why didn't Levi? So we explained why the Mishnah didn't mention Levi's cases. Why didn't Levi mention Me'ilah? That if one misuses hegdish for personal use, he's chayiv in Me'ilah, and that's also a Pruta related halacha. Bechulun kamayri, b'koshim like kamayri, he's focusing on non-hegdish, mundane material, not hegdish. Okay. Elatam didnt kamayri b'koshim. Now the question is in the reverse. Our Mishnah seems to focus on kachim as well. Me'ilah is kachim, right? Nisni maser repruta. So let him add a sixth item to the list of prutas. In order to make pidyon maser sheni, the maser sheni has to be at least a pruta in worth. We had this the other day, right? So that's also a pruta related halacha. So although it's not chulin, but the Mishnah seems to be covering all types of, scenarios. Well, Kimanda Omar ein b'chem she pruta. The Mishnah here is following the shita that even if the maser sheni itself has a pruta, you can't convert the kedusha, you can't transfer it if the chaimish, the added fifth, is less than a pruta. So it's a totally different type of setup. Okay, we'll listen to chaimish maser pruta. So the Mishnah should say it like that. The fifth of the maser sheni needs to be at least a pruta to facilitate the opinion. Well, a simple answer for that. The Mishnah is focusing on actuals, on principles, on actual values of actual things, but not chaimish, add-ons and stuff like that. Therefore, it doesn't belong on the list in the Mishnah. Good. Let's go back to Omar of Katina. Bezdin is spoken. Afilu lepachim shavei pruta. Bezdin will deal with a claim even less than a pruta. Masav Rav Avakash. Ve'isa shchatam in a hegdish yishalim. So the pasuk here is speaking about a person who steals from hegdish. The word ve'es, which is denotes something extra. The rabbis pachus mishava pruta leishavan. If a person steals anything even less than a pruta from hegdish, he has to return it. And we learn from here, la hegdish in avalahadi loy. This only applies to hegdish, but if he steals from an ordinary person, it doesn't apply. So why would Bezdin get involved unless than a pruta? Eloi itmachi itman. Rather, we learned as follows. Amar of Katina. We have to revise the halacha. Im huskaku Bezdin l'shava pruta. Truthfully, Bezdin will only deal with a claim involving at least a pruta. But once they sit down and they deal with that, and then later on, there's a counterclaim. And even if it amounts to less than a pruta, we deal with that too. Because once we're in the thick of things, we just, conclude till the end. And the reason is, tchilas hadin bein in pruta. To start a session, it has to deal with a pruta. A chashivas of a shir mamin. Gemar din bein in pruta, but to conclude, that could entail even less than a pruta, and that's what Rav Katina had in mind. So bottom line, we had a Mishnah with various values pertaining to Oina, to Tana, to Haida, and that took us into the list of Chamesh Prutais. Levi had a slightly different list, and the Gemara reconciles the differences. Okay, on the topic of lists, here comes another one, Chamisha Chamshin Hein. There are 5 scenarios where a Chaimish, the added fifth, is required. Eilu Hein. So we have as follows. Truma. If a non-kohen inadvertently eats truma, he has to repay the keren, the actual value, and the chaimish. Utrumas maser. Trumas maser is the truma which the Levi removes from his maceration. That also has a status of like truma. And if a non-kohen eats it, he has to pay the fifth. Utrumas maser shal demai. And likewise, if he ate trumas maser from demai material, which isn't really obligated min haTorah, it's things that he brought from the Amoritz. We don't know if he took care of the truma, so the Rabbanon required us to go ahead and address it to a certain extent, to separate certain things like trumas maser, which we had a feeling they didn't do. A person eats that, he has to repay keren v'chaimish. That's a chiddush, although it's the Rabbanon, chaimish is included as well, and the Gemara will deal with that. What other forms of consumption trigger chaimish? V'chala, v'bikurim, it's the chala portion of the dough belonging to the kohen, likewise bikurim. Moisef chaimish has to add a fifth. And Rashi says, all these, truma, all these are considered one item on the list. There are also all sort of consumption-related liabilities, so it counts only as one on the list of 5. Okay, what's the next one? If an owner had some maser sheni, or something which grew on in the 4th year of his orchard, so there as well, it has some sort of kedusha, and you have to be paided to enable its consumption outside Yerushalayim. If the owner does this redemption, he has to add a fifth. Likewise, if you redeem the item that you donated to Beis Hamikdash, add a fifth. A person used Hegdish property, that's mi'ila, and you have to add a fifth. And this is something which we discussed in the past Mishnah. Person robs, swears to denying, then admits, he has to add a fifth. Amar Rava. Kash l'Rab Lezer. Rab Lezer had a kasha. Trumas maser shal demai. So you understand, if you eat ordinary trumas maser, okay, it triggers a fifth. The chaimish add-on. But what about demai? It's only the Rabbanon. V'chi asu chachamim chizuk l'devreim. Kishal Torah, do the chachamim typically apply the same stringencies and parameters to the rabbinic obligation just as the Torah? We apply the halacha of chaimish to demai as well. That's a chiddush. Amar of Nachman Shmuel, yeah. Hamani Rab Meir. Our Mishnah is Rab Meir speaking. Who has this approach? The Amar Hamani Rab Meir. The Amar Asu Chachamim Chizuk L'Devreim Kishal Torah. At times we find, the Chachamim reinforced their halachas and gave it similar status to Dinei Torah, the Sanya. Maybe get Medina Sayam. We have a Mishnah, a Brisa, way back in Maseches Gittin. You may remember there's a halacha that when a person delivers a get from outside Eretz Yisrael, so as he's handing it to the Isha, he has to testify to its authenticity and that it was written properly. So let's say he failed to do so, failed to make that declaration. And suddenly deliver it to the Isha, right, in the name of the husband. He didn't say Fanei Nichtav was written in my presence, Fanei Nichtav was signed in my presence, which is required by every type of get of this fashion. So what's the halacha? Yoitzi v'avlad mamzer. The get is invalidated, even though it's only a rabbinic requirement. So if she marries based on this get, he has to divorce, and any child that they had is treated like a mamzer, because we deem her a married woman. The get is ineffective. Divrei Metzia Meir Shita, which is a big chiddush. Even though it's only a chiv the Rabbanon, we give it the same stringency as the Iraisa, as though the get was disqualified bin haTorah. No, we don't go that far. Ein avlad mamzer, we don't treat the child as a mamzer. Rather, we rectify it right away. Ketzad yasa, what do? Yitlanu mimena. So the shliach takes it back from the isha and he redoes it. V'yachzer v'itnanu lav v'nei shnayim, and he redelivers it, gives it to her in front of 2 edim. V'yamelei tells her v'fanechta. And he says that declaration. Asks the Gemara, the Rab Meir, how does Rab Meir say mishum deloi amala b'fanei nichta just because he failed to say that phrase? Yoyitzi v'lav mamzer, the new husband has to divorce, etc. I mean, it's going very far. Yes, incorrect. Rameir follows his shita. The Amar Hamnuna Mishmedar Ula Oymayir Rameir took it to that extent. Rameir would say, "Kol Mishane Mimatbeya Shatovu Chacham Begitna." A person deviates from the established procedure. Matbeya is like a coin, from the coined process, meaning he deviates from the required process. Yoitzi, and it involves begitna by get, right? Yoitzi v'chad mamzer, new husband has divorced, and the vlad is treated like a mamzer. So likewise, now a sugya, now a mishnah, even though it's just demai, which is only chayiv in truma midrabanan, we treat it like the eraisa. If the person eats it, he has to add a chaimish. The Gemara is going to ask a kasha. We see otherwise. We seem to find that demai doesn't have the same stringency as regular truma. We'll see Bez Hashem in tomorrow's daf. All the best to you and atzlachara.